All right, real quick, I'm just going to do a commentary over this video. I'm going to hit play so you can see it with your own eyes. But real quick, I'm going to explain to you how these four Muslims got completely, utterly steamrolled by one Christian, which is me. How this guy right here, the Orthodox Muslim, they call him or Libyano or Libisheko, was literally quivering uncontrollably in fear because he was so scared of me sharing the answer, the correct answer that he didn't want to hear. He wanted me to answer in a specific way that he wanted, right? And I'll show you that that exactly was his intention with video evidence, basically evidence, including video evidence. And he was so scared of letting me get my point across, specifically in regards to whether lying is essential to human nature, so scared of getting my point across that his quivering reached such high heights that he had to beg the host, his other Muslim partner host, Sheikh Uthran. He had to beg him to please take this Christian down, because obviously they can't stand to listen to truth for more than 15 seconds because they can see where it's going. They can see how I was going to land the point and how it's all related, right? So again, they start off by saying, does Jesus have just one mind? Which one is it? I basically told them, hey, you're implying he only has one when he doesn't. He's fully divine and fully human, right? Two natures. So then they essentially go on to say that the ability to lie is what makes someone human. I then rejected that. I rejected that as my premise. Like, no, that's not. I rejected that as my stance. That's not what I'm saying. Then I basically gave the right instinct. I was trying to tie lying to fallenness rather than humanness, as in tying lying to a corruption of free will, not a necessity of free will. God made us in his image, in his likeness, right? To love, to be honest, etc., etc. Right? You don't need to have you don't need to have crashed your car or have the ability to crash your car to be a good driver. You don't need to fail an exam as proof to say that you're an exam taker. If lying is what it means to be human, then infants are not human. Newborn babies are not human. If lying is what it means to be human, then we are not human when we go to heaven. In Islamic scriptures and in Christian scriptures. Because if I'm not mistaken, an Islamic Christian, in your sexually deranged heaven where you get 72 virgins, apparently you guys can't lie there. So if lying is essential to be human, then you guys aren't even going to be humans in there. Neither are Christians in our heaven, right? Our real heaven, not your fake heaven, which is really hell. So your own, stance that you're trying to force on me doesn't even make sense in your own religion, in your own theological foundation. The idea that to be human, it is essential to lie, to have the ability to lie, when it clearly says that in heaven we won't be able to lie. Okay, so that's number one. And this is also why I thought it was a good example to me bring up Adam. Not because free will means you need to lie, no, but because lying is a corruption of free will, not a necessity of human nature. Okay, we were created in God's image, in his likenessness. I hope that explains that, right? And then, right, they say, I ended up saying, essentially saying saying that God can't do anything is putting a limitation on him. And then I ended up fixing it because I didn't say it right the first time around. I was like, what I was really trying to say is he's not going to do something that's not in his nature, right? I'm not the best debater, so the first time it comes out, might not come out 100% perfect. And I always try to get a chance to polish what I was really trying to say, as long as I don't get interrupted, which I would assume they do if they're really courageous enough to hear my full argument, to then fully dissect and give their Muslim audience a display, and any Christian audience a display of how they dismantle my full argument, if they let me finish, right? But given my response on how it is not essential to human nature, they didn't like that, because they seem to have been part of a script where they needed me to say, yes, it is part of human nature to lie, and if it's part of human nature to lie, a necessity to human nature, Jesus can't be God because Christian scripture says God cannot lie. But since I didn't fall into that trap, maybe he thought that asking me the same question 7, 8 more times after I already initially answered it the first time would get me to change my answer from a no to a yes. Maybe he thought that would work, but unfortunately it wasn't working, which is why he began to quiver, panic, interrupt, and eventually beg Sheikh Uthran to kick me from the live. And if you think my summary is incorrect, I'm going to go ahead and hit play here so that you can watch it with your own eyes. And you could see how, given the amount of times that I was interrupted, which was like tons of times you're going to see in the video, once things starts to escalate, which is specifically around the time where I'm giving them answers to humans not having lying as being essential to human nature, when I start answering those line of questions, that's when his interruptions start to come up, because he doesn't like my answer, because it's not in alignment with what he expected for him to get his ideal gotcha moment. So I'm going to show you guys how he completely ignores my answer. I don't know if maybe he suffers from some kind of mental issue where he didn't understand or whatever, but let's go ahead and watch this for ourselves so we can see if I'm exaggerating.
You could speak of him as knowing all things, but all things is always indexed specific category. So it doesn't literally mean all things, as we just demonstrated.
Yeah, I mean, once we got the whole angels not knowing, just as Jesus doesn't know, and then, you know.
Hello?
Yes, Nathaniel, you're on.
Hey.
How you doing?
Doing good, and you?
Can you turn your camera on, sir?
No, I'm good. I'll keep my camera off.
We prefer if you turn your camera on, because we don't know what you're doing back there, but...
I prefer to keep it on. I'm here to answer questions, and...
I think he's fine.
Okay. If Orthodox said you're fine, bro. You get the pass.
Yes. Appreciate that.
All right. Mark, I think you had a question Nathaniel wants to answer. So, Isa, can you ask your question?
Yeah, so I want to know, does Jesus have a divine mind, or does he have a fully human mind?
Are you asking me that question?
Yes.
So here's the thing. Jesus is fully God and fully man.
There's the first question that they ask me. 100% based in scripture, not making it out of my ass. Christian doctrine agrees with it. We can all agree I wasn't running from that question.
So to ask the question, does he have one or the other, assumes that he only has one, when he does not have just one nature. He has a fully divine nature and a fully human nature. So that is the answer to your question, given Christian doctrine.
Can we go to Hebrews 2:17?
Got you. Hebrews 2:17.
See, because Christians, they don't want to admit, they want to say Jesus is omniscient, right? But that doesn't actually help them either. In Hebrews 2:17, it says that Jesus was made like us in every...
Now, at this point, they begin to be dishonest, right? It's clear, right? I start to see where they're going. I start to see that they're essentially trying to imply that since Jesus is fully man, then fully man, they're probably going to say that being fully man means you need to have the ability to sin. You need to be able to sin, right? Since in our current state, in our current fallen state, we're all sinners, right? Therefore, they're going to try to argue that if Jesus is fully man and fully God, he can't be fully God because he needs to have the ability to lie like us in our fallen nature. But as I said earlier, as I described earlier, that is not the point of the argument. The point here is that we were created in the image of God, in his likeness, right? With his ability to love, with his honesty, so on and so forth. And how our inclination to corrupt our free will, to lie, came after the fall, not pre-fall. Even if someone tries to argue that even pre-fall, one can use the free will to disobey God, that is a corruption of free will, not necessarily a necessity of what it means to be human. Like I said before, if being human means you need to have the ability to lie, then that completely contradicts even Islamic theology and Christian theology, where in heaven we won't be able to lie. So does that mean we won't be humans in heaven? And if lying or ability to lie is essential to what it means to be human, then does that mean that a 0-month-old baby is not human? Does that mean that a baby that cannot speak is not human? Like, what exactly are you guys trying to argue here? So I hope those analogies can help your slow brains understand what I meant and why I was bringing up Adam. But little Libby Shako here, right? Now that you guys can see the uninterrupted explanation and how me bringing up Adam directly relates to the question as to whether lying is essential to human nature, and as you can see how it lands and it's completely related, Libby Shako probably saw where I was going and how it was directly related to this question. And you'll see at one point how he tries to downplay my answer and say, hey, I didn't ask you about Adam. Can you please stop giving me so much context and such a right answer?
Every way, right? So you can't have a mind that we don't have, and that this is necessary for atonement. So he had to have a human mind, a fully human mind. He can't have a fully human mind that's connected to a divine mind. He can't be omniscient anyway, or else there's no atonement for sin. And it says it right there.
Therefore, in all things, he had to be made like his brethren, that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in things pertaining to God, to make preparations for the sins of people. So if he is fully like humans, how could he be fully God?
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that given the fact that Hebrews...
And again, what I'm here doing is I'm just trying to get them to clarify the argument. I think that's the best thing to do in arguments, right? Because then it happens sometimes. Sometimes people misspoke, or sometimes you're just like, you know what? Here's exactly what I'm trying to say in better words, right? That's why I like to say, is this what you mean? Is this what you're saying? Can you clarify what your argument is, right? Something that obviously they don't do in this video. They like to interrupt and not give you chances to expound on what you meant.
2:17 essentially says he was made to be like humans in every aspect, then that means that he cannot be God. Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly before I respond.
He has to be fully human in order for there to be salvation.
Let me properly understand your point. Is your point saying that you're understanding Hebrews 2:17 as it describing Jesus being sharing every aspect with humans, therefore meaning he is not God? Is that your argument? Yes or no?
No. I'm not even saying that doesn't mean he's not God. I'm saying he has to be fully human in every way, or else there's no atonement.
Hold on. So,
and here's the reason why they're basically trying to argue that, like I said, that lying is essential to humanity, because it is true that Scripture does state that God cannot lie. However, look at this. Scripture does not state that lying is essential to being human, exactly as I was saying. I might have not said it in these exact words, but my argument was saying the same thing. You see, the same thing it says here. Scripture does not state that lying is essential to being human. On the contrary, the Bible presents lying as a distortion of the original good human nature created by God, which is why I was mentioning Adam in the first place, a consequence of the fall and influence of Satan. While some verses describe the reality of human fallenness and pervasiveness of deceit, they do not frame it as a necessary or ordained human trait, but rather as a sin to be overcome. Lying is opposed to God's nature. Lying is associated with the fall. All men are liars. Obviously, this is in relation to, post-fall, right? Humanity, frailty, and sinfulness. The idea that all humanity is fallen and prone to dishonesty. A contrast to God. The statement is often made in comments of despair to show that only God is perfectly truthful, where all humans fail to be perfectly honest. A call to truthfulness. The New Testament commands believers to abandon lying as a part of their old self, further, or whatever. But yeah, in summary, Scripture views lying as a perversion of what it means to be truly human, not a essential component of it, which is the same thing I was saying, but Google just formulates it in better words. It's the same thing.
Well, you obviously have a point here.
So, and I'm showing you guys this, right? Just as proof that I wasn't making this up. Right? I wasn't making this up out of my ass. Nobody was panicking. Nobody was dodging. Right? I was just answering them based off of Christian doctrine. But because they were planning on me saying yes, that's when their panicking and their interrupting started to ensue. We'll see when they start to ask me more on the human nature part. We'll count how long it takes for them to interrupt me.
Being up Hebrews 2:17. And I'm just trying to ask you what's your point so that I can respond to your point. Because clearly, as correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you're trying to insinuate that because Hebrews 2:17 explains that he has human aspects in order to atone for our sin, that therefore means that he cannot be God. I'm pretty. Are we going to sit here and lie? Is that not why you're bringing up Hebrews 2:17? Let me know if that's the case so that I can respond to it.
What I'm saying. I'll explain one more time. So it says he needs to be fully human, just like his brothers, or else there's no atonement.
Okay,
in every way.
Hebrews 2:17.
It says here. Hold on, Nathaniel. Just to be clear, because I don't want you to read into the verse what's not there. It doesn't say aspects. It says in every way. That's in the verse.
And what's crazy here is he felt the need to say that when I was already in agreement with Hebrews 2:17. From the get-go, I was saying Jesus is fully man in his human nature and fully God in his divine nature. But unfortunately, these guys suffer from some kind of mental something or some kind of cognitive issue that isn't allowing them to realize and register that I was already in agreement with Hebrews 2:17.
Here's the thing. You want to know something?
Yeah,
you want to know something?
Yes.
Jesus is fully human in every way. And the fact that you say...
And you can see here, I reiterate the same thing to them because I guess, like I said, the first time around, not sure if they're lacking in any kind of cognitive way. So maybe repetition is necessary for them, maybe because they're slow.
That he can't be fully human and fully God is a limitation in and of itself on a God that's capable of doing everything.
No,
saying God.
Hold on.
Nathaniel. I'm sorry, I haven't been given 30 seconds, my brother.
Okay, I'm going to let you speak. Nobody interrupt him. Go ahead.
Okay. Given my explanation and what I was saying, that yes, it does say that you have to be made like his brothers in every aspect, but Jesus also is human in every aspect. Me saying that he is fully human does not negate the fact that he is also fully God. And to finish my point before I get interrupted, give me 30 seconds, please. When Jesus essentially... when we're talking about Jesus' nature, fully...
I kind of had a blank moment there and almost forgot. It's the first time debating in front of so many people, so yeah.
Human and fully divine.
I ended up repeating what I already said, where he's fully human, fully divine, which is fine. It's in agreement with what the very verse that they're showing me.
Right? Me mentioning his human nature does not negate his divine nature. And to say that God cannot come in human form is in and of itself a limitation on an all-powerful God. How can you, a measly human, say God cannot do anything, period?
Very simple.
Hold on. Nathaniel, are you done speaking?
Almost done. And in relation to Hebrews 2:17, right? If we're going to bring that up, because I would assume that you think that somehow means that, he's not God. You also have to understand, right, that the same chapter that you're bringing up, Hebrews, we're going to talk.
Now, if you notice right here, right, I wasn't trying to derail here. I was going to continue to entertain them, but I just wanted to quickly make them aware of their hypocrisy, of how when someone attacks Islam, even though the context doesn't help them, they scream context. But unfortunately, authoritative Islamic sources, right? Very authoritative Islamic sources, unfortunately, confirm that the context of the Quran actually hurts their case in relation to when we make attacks to the Quran, like, for example, saying that, there's a bunch of violent verses, it's not peaceful, how Aisha was 6 at marriage and 9 at consummation, because Muhammad, for whatever reason, just seems to be attracted to minors, and these Muslims, for whatever reason, love to defend it. And when we point to the context, I guess they ignore it. So I guess it's a common thing for these Muslims to have, I guess, the habits of running from context. The same way they run from context, showing them how Muhammad was a sexually deranged pedophile attracted to minors, is the same way, you see, they're running from their own Islamic sources, is the same way they run from the context of our sources, of our scripture. So in this point here, they're bringing up Hebrews 2:17. So I basically try to say, like, hey, before we continue, I just want to point out the context of Hebrews on how Hebrews actually says Jesus is God. So I'm not sure where you guys are going with this. But as I'm bringing this up, you're going to notice that this Orthodox Muslim guy here, who he calls himself Libyano, he begins to quiver so uncontrollably, so full of fear of me sharing that truthful statement of the context of Hebrews, so scared of context that his only choice is to interrupt and say, "Oh my God, you're jumping. Oh, stop deviating. Stop giving 50 points," despite the context of Hebrews being related to Hebrews. It wouldn't be context if it's not in Hebrews. That's such an illogical argument. But again, we all know that this guy is notorious for accusing people of panicking when he's the one panicking. Let's see how quickly he interrupts when I start to bring up the context of Hebrews. Let's go.
About context here, because we're going to talk.
Mind you, these guys are all bark, no bites. They go on the internet acting courageous, barking about willing to hear out any arguments of Christians and that they'll debate them and that these Christians don't know. Barking and barking and barking. But then when it comes to actually hear out the arguments like you said you would do, all you can do is, instead of bite, aka listen to the argument in full and respond, you resort to just barking and barking and barking in fear, quivering, trying to stop me from sharing my argument. How is it that you're going to invite someone to a debate but then not allow them to give their point? That seems kind of cowardly on my end. I don't know.
We also have to talk about context. Hebrews 1:3 says, "He is the radiance of the glory of God and the exact imprint of his nature."
Brother, can you stop shotgunning?
My brother, what happened? His nature, and he upholds the universe by the word of his prayer. Hebrews 1:8, by the Son, he is your throne, O God, is forever and ever.
Can somebody mute him? Yeah.
You see, at this point, he quivers so bad that he has to beg his little leader, Sheikh Uthran, "Oh my gosh, can somebody mute this guy?" Literally shaking and trembling. Let's go ahead and continue. Mind you, I'm not sure why they're running and so scared of context, but hey, like I said, Muslims are notorious for running from context, since these are the same people that run from the context. Like, for example, verses like Surah 1095 that tells them that if they doubt the Quran, to come to our book, the people of the gospel, the Christian Bible, which literally shows that the Quran is false. And I have Muslim sources agreeing with what I'm saying. Again, they like to run from context, freaking, whether it's Islamic scholars, classical scholars, and context, or Christian scholars and Christian context. Regardless of what kind of context, these guys are terribly afraid of context. I think if you want to scare these guys for Halloween, dress up as a giant context costume or something of that nature.
Nathaniel, I don't want to meet you, bro.
Stop gunning. You're given multiple points. You were given 30 seconds to address one point. Not just throw 50 points at a time. Don't worry, I'm going to catch you, but 1 point at a time, please.
Okay, Nathaniel.
Notice how all I did was bring up 2 verses in Hebrews, but the truth felt so overwhelming to Libyano. It made him quiver so much, since it wasn't going the way he wanted, that he equated 2 quick contextual verses in Hebrew to 50 points. It felt like 50 points to him. That's how scared he was of the contextual information in Hebrews.
One thing real quick, okay? We don't want to jump from verse.
Mind you, these guys are all bark, no bite. Straight barking about giving people the opportunity to debate, yet when it comes chance to give a Christian the chance to speak, they shake and tremble and interrupt and kick them.
Verse to verse and things. We want to address one thing at a time. So I let you speak. I didn't interrupt you. We let you have more than 30 seconds and all of that. You said if we say God cannot be human, we're saying that all-powerful God's being limited, that God can do anything no matter what, because God's all-powerful. Can you look up Hebrews 6:18, please?
Now here I obviously the first time I word something, I might have not worded it correctly, like can't do anything. I end up clarifying my argument, thankfully, before I got interrupted. And I clarified by saying what I really meant to say is he won't do something that's not in his nature.
Same chapter, by the way.
You said Hebrews what?
6, chapter 6, verse 18.
Let me look up.
I got you. It's on the screen for you as well.
It says Hebrews 6:18 says God did this so that by 2 unchangeable things in which it is impossible for God to lie,
No,
We
wait.
who have
if-
fled to take hold of the hope set before us may be greatly encouraged. Can you explain to me what
So
was the
God
purpose for this?
cannot lie, right?
And again, this is where they start to get into the questioning as to whether lying is essential to human nature.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Now, can I?
Hold on.
Is it possible for me to clarify my point?
Nathaniel, we let you speak. My question is, God cannot lie. Do you agree?
Can I clarify my point and what I mean?
you need to answer
Did
the
you hear
question.
my question, Nathaniel?
Okay, I'll answer your question.
Thank
You ready you ready for the answer?
Yes.
Okay, the answer is God can do things within his nature, and he cannot do things that are not in his nature. He cannot
So
do things that are not in his
This was just me clarifying, or I guess further polishing when I said, how can you say God can't do anything, right? Because obviously I had to polish it, because then it opens up the door to the possibility of, okay, so if he can't lift a rock that's too heavy for him to lift, then therefore he isn't God, when obviously he's not going to make the rock that's too heavy for him to lift in the first place, because he's not going to do something that's against his nature. So I'd rather use those words instead of saying God can't. You understand? Given the fact that God is all powerful. Instead of saying God can't lie, it's really just showing how it's not a limitation, but instead a perfection of his perfectness, his perfect love. You know what I'm saying?
his nature.
Cannot lie.
So
correct?
therefore, God cannot create a rock that's too heavy for him to lift, because
Beautiful.
that's not in his
Excellent.
nature for him to create that in the first place. So
Is
therefore,
the nature of God being all-knowing and all-powerful?
the nature of God is being all-knowing. Yes, Jesus is
So
all-knowing.
when Jesus was not all-powerful as a human being and not all-knowing and had limitations that humans have, as humans are never all-knowing.
Now, here he begins to imply that Jesus was not all powerful, he was not all knowing. Like I said earlier, just because there is a verse or an instance where Jesus is exercising his human nature, it does not erase, dismantle, or negate his divine nature. Likewise, when he is exercising his divine nature, does not mean that his human nature does not exist. He is fully human and fully God. That's like someone who knows two languages. If I know English and Spanish, just because I am exercising my English language does not mean that I don't know Spanish, just because in that very moment I wasn't exercising my Spanish ability to speak, okay? It sucks that I have to break it down for you guys like this and hold you by the hands so that you guys can understand it, and hopefully there's nothing, no kind of cognitive impairment that is preventing you guys from understanding this, because I don't think I should be able to hold you guys by the hand like this to explain this to you. You guys are not little girls, you guys are grown men, and you guys need to start to act like them and understand and stop interrupting, all right? Show that you're not all bark and show that you're bite by letting people speak, because as of now, you're just showing you're all bark, 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 right? Barking like as if you're courageous, but your actions show you're a coward and you cannot let people speak. And you guys are going to see that when we get to the point of climax, where the interruptions come around me further explaining why lying is not essential to human nature, as I already explained in my explanations. Let's hit play now.
So you're saying God cannot do things out of his nature, like lie. So it's not putting a limitation on an all-powerful God. It is saying that out of his glory, it is below his glory and honor to lie. Just like that, it is below the glory and grandeur of God's true nature to have to go to the bathroom and to be breastfed and to be pee-peeing and poo-pooing and things like that. That is not befitting of an all-powerful God.
Okay,
Done.
can I respond to that?
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, let me just engage him right quick. Nathaniel,
Go for it, bro.
we could agree that God cannot do things that are metaphysically impossible, right?
We can't do things that are not in his nature. Let me know when I get the chance to respond. Go
All
ahead.
right, no, we're having a back and forth, man. So God
Yeah,
can't
go
do
ahead.
things.
Notice how I say, yeah, go ahead. Something you don't hear from them. What you hear from them is stop.
That are metaphysically impossible. Is it just that God can't lie, or is it also that God doesn't even have potentia to lie?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
So Sheikh Uthman just mentioned that the author of Hebrews asserts that God can't lie.
Correct.
I'm asking, is it just that God doesn't lie, or that God doesn't even have the potential, the ability to lie?
And how does that relate to Jesus being God?
Just answer the question.
I mean, I'm not sure how that relates to Jesus being God.
I'll tell you how it relates if you answer the question.
I'm not sure. I can't give you a solid answer. I haven't thought
Nathaniel,
about
is it possible for God to lie?
No.
Okay, so then God can't even lie. Not that he just doesn't lie.
So here's the thing. I'm not trying to argue here that God has the ability to lie. The reason why I said he has the ability is because, generally speaking, I don't like using the words God can't. You understand? I don't like to say God can't, because then that kind of implies that he's not all powerful. Instead of saying he can't, even though it might have not been the best choice of words, I says he has the ability, but he doesn't do it because it's not in his nature to do so. So when people say God can't lie, it's because it's not in his nature to do so. You understand? So yeah, that's basically what I end up saying. Yeah, I could have said it in better words, but you get my point.
But he can't even lie, right?
It's not that he can't. It's just that it's not in his nature to do so.
Brother, we get it. We get it. So by nature, he can't lie. It's not that he can, but he just chooses not.
It's just he can. It's just not in. It's not in his nature to do so.
Oh my God! So if
this is why I kept repeating, it's not in his nature to do so. Just stop trying to make me say something else and just accept my answer. My answer was a valid answer to the question, can God lie? It's not in his nature to do so, and I explained why. I just gave the explanation. Why it's more appropriate to say it's not in his nature since he's all-powerful, instead of using the words he can't in part of the explanation, in my opinion, because the words can't imply not being all-powerful, which is why I continue to say it's not in his nature, but Libby Shako continues to, I guess, reject my answer for whatever reason.
That means there's a possible world where he could do it.
And him saying that there's a possible world where he could do it is, again, a misunderstanding of what I was trying to say, which is what I'm saying now. Like, listen, he's all powerful, so I'm not trying to say that there's something that he can't do. It's just that it's not in his nature to do it, so he won't do it anyways.
Things, right?
And even without me polishing now uninterrupted, I'm pretty. What I was saying was still correct. The gist of what I was saying is still correct. But obviously, these guys don't like the truth.
Oh, okay. Can you explain to me, what does this have to do with Jesus not being God?
Brother, it has everything to do, because I'm going to show you that by your own.
You keep saying you're going to show me, but you haven't shown.
You're cutting me off.
You're just repeatedly asking me.
Cutting me off.
Now, mind you, from the very beginning, I already saw where they were going. Okay, you guys want to use Hebrews, that one Hebrews verse to say he's fully man, to then imply that man by nature has the ability to commit some kind of sin, which they confirm that sin is lying. And therefore, if man can sin, then Jesus can't be fully man. If it's sinning is part of man's nature, therefore Jesus isn't God. You know what I'm saying? So I can see where they're going with this. It's just the issue is that they don't want to admit that that's where they're going for whatever reason, even though they end up admitting it anyways, and it fails regardless. But let's see here how he begins to, I guess, claim that I'm panicking or whatever, if that makes him feel better.
Don't panic.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Don't enter panic mode, please.
Now, mind you how I say I'm sorry, go ahead, and I let him finish.
I'm sorry,
Nathaniel,
go ahead.
you just said that God can't lie. Is that right?
Okay, yes.
All right, beautiful.
With certain specifics, okay. I guess.
Okay.
Now, when I said with certain specifics, I guess, right, at the very moment, the words didn't flow perfectly, but I guess a better choice of words could have been with caveats, as in, like, obviously he's not going to create a rock that's too heavy for him to lift. It's not part of his nature. That's what I meant by, like, with certain specifics, with certain caveats, right? I'm not going to say he can't. It's better and more appropriate to just say it's not in his nature to do so.
He can't do. If I had to answer you exactly, he cannot do something that is not in his nature.
Beautiful. We agree. So then let me give you an example, right? Humans can lie, but it's possible that a human chooses not to lie, right?
Correct.
Beautiful. God is not like that. It's not that he can lie and just chooses not to lie.
Now, mind you, right? Scripture says God does not have God cannot lie. It doesn't say he doesn't have the ability to lie. It just straight up, God cannot lie, right? So if you want to prove the verses in Scripture that says God cannot lie, then I would understand your point if the verses say God does not have the ability to lie, but that's not what the verses say. It straight up says God cannot lie. You understand? So you asking if God has the ability to lie or not really does not contradict the scriptures. What would contradict the scriptures is whether God actually does lie or not, which is, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what I'm saying. You guys can look up the verses for yourself.
It's that he literally by nature can't lie, right?
Which is what I agreed. By nature, he can't lie.
It's against his, like I was saying, it's against his nature.
Beautiful, beautiful. Is Jesus truly man in every sense?
Yes, but here's
Beautiful.
the thing.
Now, mind you, I'm answering all their questions so far. No interrupting. I haven't said anything that's not in Christian doctrine, right? Just to keep that aware, because these cowards who all bark no bite like to put weird titles on their videos, acting like they did something.
Okay, go on. I'll let you finish. Go on.
Yeah. If he's truly man in every sense, then it is a necessary condition for a man to be able to lie. Was Jesus able to lie?
That is incorrect.
Now, I was going to continue and explain what do I mean by that is incorrect, right? But I did not misunderstand his question. I didn't think that he was trying to say that Jesus lied. No, I was rejecting his statement that lying is a necessity to be human. That is what I was rejecting. But unfortunately, Libby Shako, we all know he's notorious for quivering and shaking every time a Christian speaks for more than 2 seconds. As you can see, he interrupted me right away.
Jesus wasn't. It's either he was able. So, Nathaniel, just understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying Jesus lied. Okay, he didn't lie. Sure, but just because he didn't lie, it doesn't mean that he couldn't lie. So I'm asking you, in order for you to be a man, is it a necessary condition for you to have the ability to lie?
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that Jesus, you're essentially trying to imply that if Jesus was truly fully man,
then he could lie.
Then therefore he was not
lie.
God. Is that what you're?
What I'm trying to we'll get to that, but you're getting ahead of yourself.
No, I'm not getting ahead. I can see where you're going.
I'll tell you. If Jesus is truly man by nature, then Jesus can truly lie. Can we agree?
Here's the thing. I wouldn't agree, and if you'd like.
Now notice how he asked me a question. Can we agree? He's desperately wants me to agree with him because he wants to get the gotcha moment. Now notice, I did not dodge his question. What were the words that came out of my mouth when he said, can we agree? I said I do not agree. And when I try to explain, here's what happens.
If you'd like to give me a chance to speak. Lie?
See, he gave me a chance to speak. Here comes Libby Shako quivering, shaking in fear, attempting to interrupt once again.
Would you like, can I get a chance to speak?
And my disagreement is a clear sign that I'm obviously going to say no, he cannot lie, and no, it is not part of it is not a necessity to lie to be human, given the explanations I already gave.
In Jesus' humanity, can he lie?
Am I going to be forced into a yes or no question, or can I freely give you an answer?
Now, notice what he says. Can Jesus lie in his humanity? Pay attention to what he just asked. 5649. Can Jesus lie in his humanity? I didn't hear the word ability here. He said, can Jesus lie in his humanity?
Am I forced into a yes or no question, or can I freely give you an answer?
You can qualify, but yes, a yes or no.
Now remember, he said, can Jesus lie in his humanity? Now mind you, what he wants to do is he tries to dominate the conversation. I'm going to give him a yes or no, but it's going to be an obviously implied yes or no. I'm not going to start it off with an obvious yes or an obvious no, because you're not going to tell me how I'm supposed to answer. You're supposed to be the courageous one who's supposed to let the Christians speak, right, for at least 60 seconds. And in my answer, you'll clearly hear that I'm strongly implying either a yes or a no. In this case, it's strongly a no, despite the fact that I already disagreed with his statement that where he tried to say that lying is essential to what it means to be human. Now remember, he said essentially, can Jesus lie? He didn't say if it's an ability. And just to make sure, let's rewind just about 10 seconds.
Jesus' humanity, can he lie?
In Jesus' humanity, can he lie? Remember that.
Am I going to be forced into a yes or no question, or can I freely give you an answer?
Jesus' humanity.
Am I forced into a yes or no question, or can I freely give you an answer?
You can qualify, but yeah, say yes or no.
Can I give you a free answer?
Yeah, say yes or no, then qualify.
I'm not going to be forced into a yes or no. Can I answer freely?
It's a straight dichotomy. It's either
okay, I'm going to answer freely, and I hope to not be interrupted. So,
all right.
Here's the thing: the argument that essentially.
Now, here I was going to say that the argument that essentially says that lying is essential to humans. Is essential to being human. Therefore, Jesus cannot be God because God can't lie. I was going to say that argument is a weak one because I never agreed with the statement, nor does Christian doctrine agree with that, with this, given what I had showed you earlier and what I explained, right? How this explains what I already said in a better fashion. That scripture views lying as a perversion of what it means to be truly human, not an essential component of it, especially with the analogies that I gave that for example, an infant who's straight out of the womb. Are you trying to tell me that that infant is not human just because it has not lied yet or because it doesn't have the ability to lie? It's nonsense, okay? It's complete nonsense. So obviously, before I even get a chance to get my point across, Libby Shako, who can't give a Christian more than 5-10 seconds to speak because he runs from the truth, interrupts me. And I'm just going to rewind again just so you can see how quick he interrupts me.
Jesus' humanity, can he...
Just so you can see, he's all bark, no bite. He acts like he's courageous on the internet, barking about letting anyone debate, but he runs like a coward and interrupts and doesn't let people speak, showing he's afraid of full arguments.
Am I going to be forced into a yes or no question, or can I freely give you an answer?
Humanity.
Am I forced into a yes or no question, or can I freely give you an answer?
You can qualify, but yeah, say yes or no.
Can I give you a free answer?
Yeah, say yes or no, then qualify.
I'm not going to be forced into a yes or no. Can I answer freely?
It's a straight dichotomy. It's either
okay, I'm going to answer freely, and I hope to not be interrupted.
Remember the answer. Can Jesus lie in his humanity?
So,
all right.
Here's the thing. The argument that essentially...
Remember, I just showed you the timestamp where he said, can Jesus lie in his humanity?
He's truly human, and therefore being human means that you are...
That's not my argument.
You see how quick he interrupts?
Argument is specific. It's about lying. Can you please address it?
I was going to address it, but Libby Shako just, I guess, has an uncontrollable addiction to interrupting people he's afraid of, specifically afraid of hearing their arguments.
Can Jesus...
And he said specifically about lying.
Can Jesus lie in his humanity?
Can Jesus lie in his humanity? Let's see.
So here's the thing. Lying is not what makes someone human.
It does.
Now notice this. How is it that as a debater, you're going to ask me a question, I tell you my answer, and then you try to tell me, no, you're supposed to say it is what makes you human? Wait a minute. Aren't you the one asking me the question? And aren't I the one who's supposed to answer your question? Or are you going to answer your own question for me? Because that's what he did right there. Libby Shako suffers so hard from I don't know what kind of cognitive difficulty that he literally just tried to answer his own question for me instead of allowing me to answer, because he's so scared and quivers and trembles so hard at the truth that he couldn't help but to have me answer the way he answered. He wanted to put the answer in my mouth and say, no, it is essential to human nature. Let's just see that again. Let's look at that again, because honestly, that was beautiful habit of Libby Shako of interrupting arguments that he's scared of his audience of hearing.
Freely, and I hope to not be interrupted. So,
all right.
Here's the thing. The argument that essentially he's truly human and therefore being human means that you are...
That's not my argument.
Look at that. I started talking at around 57:07, 57:06. It only took him about 10 seconds to interrupt me.
My argument is specific. It's about lying. Can you please address it?
Now let's see how quick he interrupts me again.
Can Jesus lie in his humanity?
So here's the thing. Lying is not what makes someone human.
It does.
You see how quick? It's literally like 2-3 seconds.
Hear me out. Hear me out, my brother.
This is why I have to tell him, hear me out, man. Stop panicking. Like I can tell you're afraid of the answer.
Hear me out. Lying is not what makes someone human. It's what makes a human fallen. God did not.
Brother,
Can I finish? My brother. I spoke for 5 seconds.
See, notice again, Libby Shako begins to quiver in fear, shaking uncontrollably.
My brother.
I didn't say lying.
Scared of a full argument. He can't even give me 60 seconds.
Lying, I said ability to lie.
You didn't say lying? Let's rewind and see what you said.
Jesus' humanity, can he lie?
Am I going to be forced
Where's the word ability?
to a yes or no question, or can I freely give you an answer?
Humanity?
Can Jesus lie? Where's the word ability?
Am I forced into a yes or no question, or can I freely give you an answer?
You can qualify, but yes.
I just he said I didn't say lie. I said ability to lie. I rewinded and he clearly just said lie.
Can I give you a free answer?
Yeah, say yes or no, then qualify.
I'm not going to be forced into a yes or no. Can I answer free?
When I said I'm not going to be forced into a yes or no, I meant like I'm going to give him his yes or no, but it's not going to be straight up yes or no. I'm not his dog. I'm going to give him the answer. My answer strongly implies a no, even though I already gave him the no previously when I disagreed with his statement that lying is essential to human nature. But again, he must suffer from some kind of cognitive issues that isn't allowing that to register in his head, which is why I have to make this breakdown to hold him by the hands and walk him to that level of understanding, like as if he's a child. But again, we all know he needs to stop acting like a child and act like a grown adult with full cognitive abilities.
Dichotomy. It's either
okay, I'm going to answer freely, and I hope to not be interrupted. So,
all right.
Here's the thing. The argument that essentially he's truly human and therefore being human means that you are...
That's not my argument. My argument is specific. It's about lying. Can you please address it? Can Jesus lie in his humanity?
So here's the thing. Lying is not what makes someone human.
It does.
Hear me out. Hear me out, my brother. Hear me out. Lying is not what makes someone human. It's what makes a human fallen. God did not. Brother, can I finish, my brother? I spoke for 5 seconds, my brother.
I didn't say lying. I said ability to lie.
Can I speak?
Now, mind you, here he, I guess, polishes his question, but clearly we just saw he was not saying that. When he reiterated, he was saying lying. Can he lie in his nature? Can Jesus lie in his human nature? He did not use the word ability. But Libby Shako didn't even notice that because he's too busy panicking.
Bro, if you're going to do victim, we're going to send you out.
Now, mind you, he goes to the extent of having such low-level cognitive abilities that he's not realizing that he actually is the one he's the one interrupting me so much. And then when I point out the fact that he's interrupting me, he wants to call me the victim. Yeah, sure, Libby Shako, you're not the one who's quivering, shaking in fear, afraid of giving me 60 seconds to speak. Yeah, sure, that's not really happening, and I'm just being a victim. I'm sure the timestamp in the video says I'm wrong.
I promise you I'm not doing victim. I'll put a timer up for 60 seconds. And I promise you you're probably going to interrupt me. So can I speak?
Just having a conversation.
Can I speak? Okay. So before you interrupt me, okay, lying is not what makes someone human. If I'm going strictly out of Christian doctrine, not making...
Now, mind you, I've already given the answer. From the very first time because here's the thing. I took the transcript of this video, the text, put it into AI, and I asked AI, according to the transcript, the timestamps, right, the minutes, the seconds, etc., how many times was I interrupted, and what were the average times of the interrupted? It said I was interrupted a ton, and the interruptions really started to ramp up around my explanations of humans not, of essentially lying not being essential to what it is to be human. And according to the transcript, AI said that the average span of interruptions were 10 to 15 seconds after I finished speaking. So he didn't even come close to giving me 60 seconds to speak, to finish landing my point like I did in this current commentary, where I further expounded upon it, giving analogies like how, if lying is essential to being human, how is it that we humans are going to be in heaven without ability to lie? Does that mean that we're no longer human? Is that the case for both theologies in Islam and Christianity? Is a baby not human? Is someone who's a driver and hasn't crashed yet or doesn't have the ability to crash for whatever reason, just because they haven't crashed yet, does that mean that they're not a driver? Like, you're not making any sense. Like, not that he's not making any sense. He's refusing to accept my logical answer.
making something out of my ass, the same thing from scripture. Humans were not created with the ability to sin. Therefore,
Yeah, I was basically trying to say here, again, might not be the perfect words, but we were created in the image of God, in his likeness, love, honesty, so on and so forth.
or it does not mean that the ability to lie is a human characteristic. A lying is
It's not. It doesn't mean that it's a necessary human characteristic. Is what I meant to say. Like I said, lying is a corruption of free will.
tied to what makes it. It's essentially what makes humans fallen. Adam before sin was fully human and did not lie. Did not
Spell it
have
out.
And the reason why I brought up Adam is to further expound on my point that we were created in God's image, in his image and in his likeness, right? And how I said lying is not essential to what it is to be human. Free will is. But that doesn't mean that lying is essential to being human. It just means lying is a corruption of said free will. Because if that's the case, Mr. Libby Shako, then that means we are not going to be truly human in heaven. And that also means that there are tons of infants who were just born, who according to your definition of what it means to be human, what is essential to be human, they are not human because they haven't lied or had the ability to lie. Do you see how I had to walk you through that logic for you to understand that, Libby Shako? But I know that you probably deep down understood it and you didn't want to get embarrassed on your own show. So here you go, Libby shaking once again, barking, showing how fearful you are of a Christian giving a logical answer grounded in Christian doctrine.
And Jesus
Not
is
what I asked.
hold on.
Notice how he tries to downplay. It's not what I asked. Like as if my point on Adam was not directly related to the point that I was landing. That lying is not essential to being human. But again, he seems to have some kind of cognitive disability that isn't allowing him to understand that he just likes to accuse and that he likes to insinuate that I was deviating from the question. Because again, he's panicking. And I guess clear evidence of the panicking is the amount of times that he interrupts. He can't even give me 60 seconds. How sad. Can you please stop quivering? Please stop quivering.
My brother, it hasn't been 60 seconds.
I didn't ask
Jesus
that.
is fully
But
human
I
and
didn't ask
sinless.
any
If
of that.
Jesus had the ability to lie, he would not be the spotless
But
lamb. So
I
your
didn't
argument
ask
confuses
any of
humanity
that.
with corruption.
I
Your
didn't
argument
ask
confuses
any of
humanity.
Daniel,
Thank you
you're-
for not giving me
you
60
have-
seconds.
you
You're
have
so mature.
entered deep-
Why are you
have
shaking?
entered deep panic.
Now, at this point, since I realize I'm not arguing with someone who argues in good faith, meaning they give me the chance to finish my point. If I say, hey, you know what, let me actually word that better. Like, here's what I was trying to say. You know, if I'm arguing with someone in good faith, they give you the chance to speak, and then they try to essentially break down your argument and show you why you're wrong. But this guy's not arguing in good faith. He's not here to listen to my argument. He's here to interrupt, because how is it that you're going to judge something that you haven't even fully heard? How are you going to hear and say that I'm wrong if you haven't even fully heard what I was going to say? How are you going to say that's not what I was going to say when you haven't let me finish what I was going to say? Like, you don't really seem to make much sense. Everything that you're doing, your actions just display cowardness. All bark, no bite.
Mode.
Why
because
are you
you're
panicking
unable-
about-
Again, and here he is. He's the one interrupting me, not letting me speak, yet he accuses me of panicking. Something that he's notorious of doing. Accusing the other person of panicking when the person is saying something that he doesn't want them to say.
Brother, you're the one
So,
interrupting me. Who's the one panicking?
Nathaniel,
my G?
pay attention, boy. Let me teach.
Now, another thing that people tend to do in debates is when they see that they don't have any logical leg to stand on, they resort to then try to name call and comment and be disrespectful. Boy, you're panicking, so on and so forth. Typical, displays of insecurity from Libby Shako, clearly quivering very strong in this moment.
Teach you, Nathaniel. I didn't ask you if Jesus lied. If Adam.
So notice how he said, let me teach you, right? Because again, I guess he's supposed to respond for me in this debate. How courageous are you that I can't even respond for myself? This is, woo, you are so courageous.
lied. I asked you, is it a necessary condition for a human to be able to lie?
And I
Or can you
explained
be
that
able-
with you.
Now, mind you, I explained
Let
that
I
me
already.
told you how God created
me
man
finish.
and how man's
Let
ability
me
to
finish.
lie came
What's wrong with
after
that?
the fall of
Let me
man.
finish.
And I was like, you know what? If he's gonna start interrupting me, I'm gonna start interrupting him, because obviously he's not arguing in good faith anymore. And he's ignoring my answers, and the clear evidence of him ignoring my answers is that every time I gave him the answer, it is not Lying is not necessary to be human. He continued to, according to the transcript, anyone can take the link, the full link of this video, 2 hours and 50 minutes. I come on at the 43-minute mark, lasts about 23 minutes long. Anyone can take the transcript of this video, paste it into AI to get the text transcript, right? And have the text transcript with timestamp. You can see that from the very first time he asked me the question about whether humans, about whether lying is essential to humans, I answered it correctly the first time. I clearly said no. Yet because he didn't want me to say no, he wanted me to say yes. The transcript shows he proceeded, despite me answering him the first time, his cognitive abilities that didn't allow him to realize or made him go into hard head panic quiver mode made him to proceed to ask me the same question in different words about 8 more times. So then up to the last time where I still answered in the same way, that's when his quiver just got uncontrollable and he had to beg the host to kick me. Let's watch.
For saying that being human means you need the ability to lie is illogical.
Mind. This is panic mode, man.
He's muted. Go ahead.
You're losing it, man. You got to relax. So, didn't ask if Jesus lied. I asked you, is it a necessary condition for a human to be able to lie, or is it the case that humans by nature can't lie? It's either one or the other. It's either humans by nature.
Now, notice how he's asking me, humans by nature can't lie, right? Right now, look, we're at 59:43, right? He says, you either tell me they can or either tell me humans by nature can't lie. He's asking this like as if I didn't just spend the last 10-15 minutes repeating myself saying it is not essential to human nature to lie. I already literally said that. I literally already repeated. It's like I'm shocked that I have to do this kind of a breakdown to show how much of panic mode, right? Of how much of a coward this guy is. But again, it's expected. They're probably going to go on social media and continue to bark and say that they steamrolled some people.
Nature can't lie, or humans by nature can lie. Which one is it?
So, Nathaniel, feel free to unmute yourself. The question, very simply, because we don't want to go in a loop, is do humans have the natural ability to lie? Yes or no?
Okay, so no, the ability to lie is not a necessary condition for being a human because that is not how God created.
Now, notice how, once again, I repeat the answer to the same question, right? They even both nod their head, kind of like in a way indirectly acknowledging that I'm answering their question. But like I said, Libyano is scared of a no. He doesn't want me to answer no. All right, he wants me to say yes because a yes would give him the gotcha moment that he's desperately looking for. Because if I say yes, then he'd say, okay, if lying is necessary to human nature, then if Jesus is fully human, that means he can sin. He has the ability to sin. That means if he can lie, then he's not God because God cannot lie. Which again, it completely would create that gotcha moment. But based on Christian doctrine, as I've explained, I can clearly say that no, it is not essential to human nature, right? And as we can see here in this moment, I answered their question again and they both nodded, subconsciously showing that yes, I answered the question. But unfortunately, it looks like his cognitive abilities or his memory, or I'm not sure what happens here, or maybe his panic mode took over, makes him forget and makes him ask the question again and again and again and again until I get kicked.
Created us. The ability to lie came in the fall of man. It was not part of God's intention to create us with all.
And like I said, even if we go to before the fall of man, before the biting of the fruit, lying is not an essential part of what it is to be human. Lying is simply a corruption of free will. Okay, so if one wants to say Adam had free will before the fall, that is still not the same, as I've explained earlier, not just with scripture, but with tons of analogies as well about the infants and about us being in heaven, so on and so forth. Again, it's sad that I have to break it down this way for these guys.
all of this.
Now let's go ahead and watch them continuously repeat the same question in different words, and me continuously give them the same answer, that no, it is not, lying is not essential of what it means to be human. And unfortunately, you're going to see that he panics at me giving him the same consistency, the same answer. And then he begins to, in panic quiver mode, beg Sheikh Uthran, how he runs from God logic. He begs Sheikh Uthran to kick me.
Sin.
Because he can't stand listening to an argument, and like actual truthful good faith debater would do, give them at least a minute or two to formulate their argument and then respond to it, and then respond by saying, hey, your argument is not valid because of XYZ, or you deviated because of XYZ. But obviously we know this guy's not cognitively capable of that. He seems to only be cognitively capable of experiencing intense levels of fear and quivering, as he's doing here, given his interruptions, because he's so scared to let a Christian speak for more than 15 seconds, even though all I was asking for was 60 seconds, and he couldn't even give me that.
Sin was not part of our, God did not create us with sin. Sin came after we were created. Therefore, you were trying to imply, which is honestly a weak argument.
So Nathaniel, you remember the question was, there's two options. Either a human by nature can lie, or by nature cannot lie.
Hey, Nathaniel, do me a favor. I suffer from cognitive ability so horribly that I know you just answered that by nature we can't, right? Given what I just said, that it is not, lying is not essential to human nature. I just answered him that question, yet here he is, right? Less than 60 seconds later, suffering from some kind of memory issue in his cognitive brain that is just for whatever reason making him repeat the question again. I don't think that, you know, if I really had to be nice and not trash talk, I don't think he's suffering from any memory issues. I think this guy is just 100% hard-headed. He's intentionally arguing in bad faith, and he's 100% scared of Christians giving factual arguments here, which is why he's interrupting, which is why he's ignoring the fact that every time he asks me that same question in different words as to whether lying is essential to human nature, and me continuously, consistently giving him the same answer, he still rejects it and asks me the same question, which is literally a loop. It's literally a loop that this guy is going into, literally quivering and shaking up until he begs Sheikh Uthran to kick me.
Which one is it?
Which one is it? Yeah.
Okay, so you're telling me that I can't answer in the way that I just answered, despite my answer.
There's two possible options. Either a human by nature can lie, or a human by nature cannot lie. Which one is it?
All right, I'm going to give you the answer again and watch how you guys interrupt me.
I want one of the two.
Let's go. I'll give you the answer again and watch how you guys interrupt me in less than 60 seconds.
You
ready? Can I show you how you're going to interrupt me in less than 60 seconds?
Option one, humans by nature
I will answer you,
lie.
okay? You're not going to like the answer, which is why you're trying to box me into how I'm supposed to answer.
So notice what he's doing here. He's so afraid, right, of a real intellectual challenge that he's telling me, hey, I'm going to ask you a question and you have to answer in either this way specifically or this way specifically, which is such a cowardly move. It's such a cowardly move from Libyano. Like, dude, my answers already clearly imply a clear no. I even said no from the very beginning. I said I disagreed. I said lying is not essential to human to be human, aka human nature, given the explanation that I gave, and I showed how it matches scripture, so on and so forth, and how this was just the same thing that I was saying, but in better words. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, you could see how he's panicking, ignoring, and answering the same question again, hoping I say yes, it is part of human nature, but I keep giving him the same exact consistent answer, yet he wants to accuse me of dodging, despite the clear video evidence, timestamps, and everything of me giving him the answer, which is, I think, is a hilarious display of how much he quivered in fear, quivered uncontrollably at the display of a Christian speaking for more than 15 seconds. God forbid I spoke for 60 seconds to land my point.
Dude, how are you walking into the debate yet you're telling me I'm supposed to answer in the way you're saying or in the second way you're saying? Do you hear yourself, my
Daniel, you gotta back it up, man. Either option one, humans by nature can lie, which means any human has the ability to lie, or option two, humans by nature cannot lie, which means
Now notice, once again, he's asking the same question again, even though I just gave him the answer. Now it's at a point where it's just like, dude, you are either extremely hard-headed or some kind of serious cognitive deficit is going on in your brain, or you're just arguing out of straight up bad faith, cowardice, 100% coward, all bark, no bite. You go all over social media barking, and barking, yet when it comes time to let someone formulate their argument, you act like a child, interrupting over and over again, ignoring the answer despite me giving you a clear, valid answer to the question the first time you presented the question, and then ignoring my answer and repeating the question 8 more times, hoping, praying to your fake God, Allah, that maybe I would change my answer to a yes of humans needing of lying being essential to what it is to be human. But unfortunately, since I didn't and I remained consistent, that made you quiver even more to ask to remove me.
no human can lie.
Let me know when you're ready to let me answer.
2 options. Which one?
Okay, I'm going to answer. So, in short, the ability to lie is not a necessary condition for a human. And oh my God.
Notice how again he says I'm not answering, despite the fact that I clearly answered. Like, this is hilarious. This guy, and he's notorious for doing this. He did this with God Logic when God Logic brought up the Islamic dilemma on how the Quran tells them to judge the Quran by the Bible, and if you do that, the Bible clearly shows that the Quran is false. Okay, and yes, the Gospel, the Injil, is talking about our scriptures. At around the 6th, 7th century, all manuscript evidence shows that the Bible we have today matches the Bible of the 6th, 7th, 1st, 2nd century. There's no proof that it was corrupted or changed, and you guys have absolutely no proof. No archaeological manuscript evidence or anything that there was this alleged different Injil that's different from our gospel or different from our Bible. They have no evidence. The burden of evidence lies on them. It's an illogical line of reasoning. They have no leg to stand on. So their only leg to stand on is acting immature, quivering, shaking, interrupting, begging their own host to remove a Christian.
My brother, 10 seconds haven't gone by.
Hold on.
10 seconds. Are you genuinely open to hearing my answer, or are you going to cut me off?
You've repeated yourself 3 times and ran away from the question.
Notice this. He says I've repeated myself, so he acknowledges that I've been answering his question while contradicting himself, saying that I'm not answering the question. Again, I don't know what it's called, what the exact psychological cognitive issue that he's suffering from is called, but clearly it's something. I don't know if it's a memory issue or what. Because anyone can take the timestamps. Anyone can watch the video on their own and pay attention to his questions and pay attention to my answers.
What kind of courage do you have? Why are you panicking? You guys are panicking. I'm just one Christian. You guys are 3, 4 Muslims.
Yeah. Sure.
You guys are panicking because you're not letting me finish. I can't even get 60 seconds. You guys are so courageous.
We're all panicking at a small fish.
Yes, so, you're panicking.
Again, Nathaniel.
You're so afraid you can't even give me 60 seconds.
It's a true dichotomy, Nathaniel. Not going to let you run. Either humans can lie by nature, or humans cannot lie by nature.
Okay, mister, I'm too scared to let me speak for 60 seconds.
Once again, sadly, he asked the same question again, despite me already answering it. And unfortunately, I'm going to answer consistently in the same way I've been answering, that lying is not essential to what it means to be human. It's a clear answer to his question. He wants me to say it is, that yes, it is essential. But again, I don't know what he's suffering from. I'm not following into the agenda that he had, so he can get his little gotcha clip that he begged his fake God Allah for. But unfortunately, his fake God Allah failed to answer his prayer of begging him for me to say yes to his gotcha question.
I need an option selected.
Okay, mister, I'm too scared to let me speak for 60 seconds. Do you want to let me speak now?
You don't answer, we're booting you, man.
Okay, I'm going to talk again and watch how you interrupt me in less than 60 seconds. Here comes the answer, and then here comes the interruption in less than 60 seconds. Let's go. All right. It is not a necessary condition to have the ability to...
You see, notice how I said it is not a necessary condition. Same consistent answer, same question over and over and over again. Instead of acknowledging that I answer his question, he's mad because I didn't answer it with a yes instead of answering it with a no. My answer was a clearly implied no, clearly. And from the beginning, I disagreed. I said I disagree. And remember what I pointed out to the point where when I answered him that no, it's not, he was like, yes, it is, it's essential to human. Trying to put words in my mouth. How are you going to ask me a question and tell me I'm supposed to respond in this way so that your gotcha thing works? Like, dude, you're not a debater, you're a coward.
You're too scared.
Hold on.
What happened?
Nathaniel.
I thought you guys were courageous. Why are you guys gonna kick me?
Nathaniel, listen.
Tell me, sir. Tell me why you have to interrupt me every single time I speak, and you can't even give me 60 seconds. Explain to me. Go
You're not
ahead.
gonna have 60 seconds.
You guys are
to
so
yap away.
courageous. You guys
Answer
go into
the question.
panic mode when an actual
Nathaniel.
Christian wants to debate with you. Aww.
Nathaniel.
Go ahead and kick me now.
You sound like a zest ball right now,
You're
man.
panicking so hard right now.
Nathaniel,
You want to talk
nobody's-
fast?
Very
nobody's-
zesty what you're doing. man.
Nobody's panicking. Nathaniel.
If you're
I'll
not
let you
panicking,
speak,
let me speak without
but-
interrupting.
or-
Show how
listen,
courageous
listen.
you are.
I'll let
Show
you
how
speak.
courageous you are, my brother.
But can you
let me
then
speak for 60
answer?
seconds without interrupting me.
Yo, Chef, can you just
Yo,
drop
bro,
it?
this guy's
he's not here to
panicking,
answer.
bro. He's panicking.
You see, they all say that I'm not answering and panicking despite answering every single time I gave the question. What a beautiful display of cowardice from these guys.
Just drop him. He doesn't want to answer the
Amazing.
question.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, according to Libyano, the man who was quivering uncontrollably and couldn't help but to interrupt me because he was so scared of my answer. The answer that he himself acknowledged I repeated 3 times. But yet, at the same time, according to him, I'm not answering the question. Despite the fact that in one of the times that he repeated the question, they both nodded their heads as a subconscious acknowledgement that I answered their question, yet repeated to say that apparently I didn't answer the question. These guys were in shambles, contradicting themselves, shaking, scared, quivering, whatever you want to call it, all bark, no bite, straight cowards. I bet you $1,000 they wouldn't debate me again and give me 1 to 2 minutes to speak uninterrupted every time it is my chance to speak. I am offering you right now, the Orthodox Muslim and One Message Foundation, Sheikh Uthran and Libby Sheiko. Both of you, I will offer you $1,000 cash, check, Zelle, ACH, however you want it, Bitcoin. I will offer you $1,000 to display your level of courage to see if you truly are as courageous you say you are when you're on the internet barking about saying you're willing to debate any Christian. Because obviously, according to my experience, you guys are not acting like no courageous, debaters at all. It's all bark, no bite.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
And there we go, I get kicked. And then they go on to basically explain that I was wrong and that the correct answer that I was supposed to say is that, yes, it's part of human nature, despite me showing you all the explanations and whatnot. But yeah, I guess this is a beautiful display of their lack of cognitive ability.
It's very simple. Either humans by nature, let me tell you why, guys. He was trapped in a corner that he couldn't.
Yeah, I was trapped in a corner. I was trapped in a corner at the fact that you asked me, is it essential to human nature to lie, yes or no? And I repeatedly said, lying is not essential to what it means to be human. Oh, yeah, sure. That was me dodging. Me clearly answering the question over and over and over again was me, quote unquote, trapped in a corner. When you're going to hear him come out of his own quivering, shaking mouth that what he really wanted to say, he's going to imply it. What he really wanted me to say was that, yes, it is part of human nature, so that he can get his little gotcha moment of saying that if it's part of human nature, what it means to be, or if it's part of what it means to be human, then therefore if Jesus is fully human, and if being fully human means you can lie, then therefore Jesus is not God, because God cannot lie. And he's literally going to admit that out of his own mouth, that what I should have said, and apparently or insinuate that what I wanted to say and was too scared to say, or I was boxed, like as if I was making this up, was that I should have said yes, when clearly I overwhelmingly every single time answered his question. But again, I literally just showed you the breakdown of how these guys were in shambles.
Couldn't have possibly come out of it. Mark brought a verse, and this is true because the later councils, like the Council of Chalcedon, affirms that Jesus is consubstantial with us in his humanity and consubstantial with the Father in his divinity, meaning that Jesus is as much human as we are, and he is as much God as the Father is.
Wow, Wow, thank you for realizing that, Libby Shako.
This is the issue then. Jesus, to be as much human, he must have ability to lie or ability to sin.
Now, notice to what he's doing. He's trying to force an answer into my mouth because he didn't like my response. He's like, all right, Nathaniel wasn't responding in the way I wanted. So let me tell you how he was supposed to say. For me to get my gotcha moment, he was supposed to say that in order to be fully human, you must be able to lie. A human has to lie. It's part of what it is to be human. Therefore, Jesus isn't God. But unfortunately, since I wasn't agreeing with what he was saying and I had my reasoning, Christian doctrine to support my point, he didn't like that, and his whole dream of getting a gotcha moment unfortunately collapsed, and that's when things went into shambles, which was evidenced by his fear of letting me speak for at least 60 seconds, Libby Shako. Go on, let me hear you quiver some more.
Or ability to be tempted, okay? God, by nature, can't have ability to sin, to lie, or to be tempted, all right? If he wants to say Jesus is truly human, he cannot say he's truly God.
You see? So
that means he has internal temptation towards lying and sin, even if it's not actualized.
Again, I already answered that every single time he asked me the question as to whether lying is essential to what it means to be human. I answered it every single time. But like I said, he just indirectly admitted it, that he did not like the fact that I was saying that lying is not essential to what it means to be human. He needed me to say that lying is essential to what it means to be human so that he can get his gotcha moment of saying that if lying is essential to what it means to be human, therefore if Jesus is fully God, then that means he's essentially a liar or can lie or has lied or however you want to put it. Therefore he is not God, because scripture says God. And here's the thing, remember earlier when I said pay attention to what the scriptures say. It says God cannot lie. Not that he doesn't have the ability to lie. And I might not be putting it in good words here, but like I said earlier, what I'm trying to explain here is I personally, generally speaking, don't like to say the words God can't. I like to say the same thing in different words without utilizing the words can't when referring to the Most High God, Jesus Christ. Because I'd rather say that it is not in his nature to do something just to completely eliminate the odds, the possibility of saying, wait a minute, did you just say the word can't? Isn't God all powerful? You see what I'm saying? So that's what I mean when I say ability. But yeah, that was basically the gist of this. As you can see, given the breakdown, these guys got completely steamrolled. 4 Christians, 1 Muslim, shaking uncontrollably, quivering, interrupting, all bark no bite, too scared to let me speak for more than 60 seconds. They run from context. When I tried to bring up context of Hebrews on how that Hebrews, the exact Hebrews verse they were pulling from, the chapter says Hebrews is God, but obviously we know they like to run from context the same way they run from the context that shows that Aisha was 6 at marriage, at 9 at consummation, and the same way they run from their own Islamic sources context showing how their own book pretty much confirms our book, the Bible. But again, we know they love to run from context the same way they run from their own authoritative context and sources like hadiths and tafsirs, authoritative ones that affirm what I was saying about Aisha being 6 and 9 at consummation and affirm what I was saying about affirming our book. They like to run from that context. So I'm not surprised that they ran from the context on our side, right? The context of the scripture, the Christian scholars, so on and so forth. These guys are notorious for running from context. So yeah, that was it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this display of cowardice from these 4